Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, show number 1015 for Wednesday, July the 9th, 2014. I am your host, Shawn King. Thank you guys very much for joining us here, whether you're tuned in live in the show, you're in the IRC chat room, you're watching via Google Hangouts or on YouTube or wherever you happen to be tuning into the show. Thanks very much. Or if you listen to the archive, thank you guys very much for being tuned to the archive via the iTunes store. I always forget to do this, but if you'd like to post a review on the iTunes store for the podcast. I haven't asked people to do that for a while, and I haven't done that. Haven't asked folks for the reviews for a while. So if you've never reviewed the show, please go ahead and review it. If you've reviewed it in the past, please re-review it. It's changed. The show's changed several times over the years, so I don't know that people. I don't know. I don't care about reviews. So that's why I never asked for them, because I don't care. Anyway, on tonight's show, we're going to have our friend Jim Dalrymple from the Loop at loopinsight.com will be joining us a little later on in the show to talk about Loop stuff. Loopinsight.com is the website. We're also going to be talking about the iBand. Now, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to check this out, but on the techpinions.com website, TECHPINIONS, techpinions.com. It's linked up on the yourmaclifeshow.com website if you want to grab it there. Tim Bajarin of TechPinions has Understanding Apple's Wearable Strategy. We're going to talk about that a little later on the show, because I think Tim has gotten the closest of any analyst or pundit as to what the iWatch is going to be. And as I've said before on the show, I don't think there's going to be any such thing as an iWatch. But if you listen to his story about him and his family going to Disneyland or Disney World, well, I can't remember which is which, and the way they're using it, it's going to be very interesting to talk about that later on in the show. Talk about a little bit with Jim, but we'll have a segment about it later on in the show. We're also going to be doing our starting point photography segment about cooperative art and the conversation a friend of mine and I had when we were over here testing the fantastic Epson R2000 printer. By the way, if you go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com, you can take a look at that. It's actually one of our picks of the week. On the left-hand side of the page, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see Amazon picks of the week, and I've chosen this week the Epson Stylus Photo R2000 wireless wide format color inkjet printer. It's an amazing printer. It ain't cheap, but it's a professional quality, professional level printer. $628. Again, not cheap. Not designed to be cheap. This is not the printer you're going to be using to print letters. This is a photo printer. This is not an inkjet per se, although it does use ink and it is a jet printer. This is for photographs. The folks at Epson loaned one to me so I can test it out to see. And the good and bad part of it is that the good stuff, spectacular. When it comes out, my first test print was this one of me and my buddy Mike Rose. If you follow TUAW.com, that's me over here, and that's Mike over here. It was 5 years ago today that Mike and I went to a Yankees game. And one of the funny things about this picture is it means I gave my camera to somebody. I never give my camera to complete strangers. So apparently, I think the guy was smaller than me, because I wouldn't have given it to a bigger guy. Because if we run off with it, I wouldn't have got it back. But so Mike and I went to the game. I gave the camera, and the guy took a decent picture. And I've always had the picture. I had it on my Flickr site. I've given it to Mike. Blah blah blah. So I just opened up the image because back up. I've got an app on my iPhone called Heyday, Heyday. You can get it from the iTunes store. I think it's free, or $1, $2. It's kind of a neat journaling app. And one of the things it does is it looks through your iPhone photos and lets you write a diary or a journal about those images. So if you take a picture, it'll put it in that date. But it also reminds you of photos you've taken. So this one reminded me that 5 years ago, 2009, 5 years ago, this week, Monday, that picture was taken. And so I had the R2000 set up, and I just printed it off. I just sent it to the printer. Now, this is an iPhone picture. This is an image. Look at the size of this thing. This is, I don't think it's 8.5 by 11. I think it's 11 by 17 from the iPhone. And it looks great. And this was just Command P. I told the printer what kind of paper I wanted. I told it I wanted it to be a full bleed, which means print all the way to the edges. Don't leave any white space on the edges. And print this thing. And it came out, and I was just aghast at how good the image was. I mean, I'm actually, this particular one is going, I'm sending it off to Mike, because Mike wanted a copy of it. This picture here of the strawberry hot air balloon is my favorite image I've ever taken. I've taken posted over 19,000 photos on Flickr and various other places. And it was taken in 2008, I think. And it's still my favorite image. And so after I printed off the Mike photo, I grabbed strawberry and printed it off. And was blown away by how good it looks. Again, Epson stylus, color stylus R2000 printer. Then these other images down here were ones I took on the Fraser River here in Vancouver, along the river edge. And then I just really messed with them in Lightroom and in Snapseed and other apps just to really blow it out. I just wanted to just do something wild and crazy with the images. Printed them off, again, blown away by how good these look. I mean, obviously the screen doesn't do them justice. But really, really impressed with the, I'm not going to say color fidelity of the R2000, if only because I'm not doing this stuff for color matching. I'm not trying to get exactly what I see on screen to become exactly what I print out. What I'm saying is the stuff that's printed out looks very, very good. One of the problems that we forget is we see light in different ways. So from your I don't think I've mentioned this before. From your computer screen, light is being projected into your eyes. Whereas from an image, it's being reflected. So light's coming from somewhere else, bouncing off this piece of paper and then hitting you in the eye. So it's going to be different unless you do what's called color matching or color syncing. And I just can't be bothered. It's a lot of work to do it properly, to do it like a professional photographer would. So I'm okay with this image not being exactly as I see it on screens. I like the image the way it came out of the printer. The other aspect of this, something we've talked about before in the show too, is having an image in your hand, being able to touch it, to mount it to a wall, to show it to friends. This on the iPhone is a cute little image of two guys hanging out. When I hold it in my hands, I have a different emotion about this. When I hold it in my hands, I remember what Mike and I were doing. I remember that day. I remember the smells of Yankee Stadium. I remember the phone call I made to Mike that morning. Hey, dude, what are you doing today? Come to a Yankees game with me. And Mike just leaving work early, and him and me riding a motorcycle down from Connecticut to New York. I remember all of that. And I never got those feelings and those images, those emotions, looking at it on my iPhone or on Flickr or other places. Now you may be different. You may be able to evoke those thoughts, feelings, smells when you see an image on your iPhone or when you see it on a website. Not for me. For me, images become, for lack of a better term, more real when they are printed out. I was saying in the pre-show that my favorite image, my favorite painting is it's called The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli, painted in 1486. And it's a spectacular image. I've always loved the image of Venus. This particular image, and I'll put it up on screen for you folks to see. You've all seen this picture before. I mean, it's a famous classical image. And I've always loved the image. And I've seen it on TV screens, and I've seen it on websites, I've seen it in books. But until you go to the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, and stand in front of this thing, it has such an amazing, visceral reaction to the image, more so than whenever I saw it on TV or on websites, things like that. It's just, first of all, you get a sense of the scale of the image. I think it's 5 feet by 8 feet. So it's a huge image that you obviously don't get the sense of scale when you're looking at it on a website or on an iPhone or a book. So I think there are some images that have to be printed off. Brian makes the point in the IRC chat room, with most monitors, not plasma, screens are RGB and printed pictures are CMYK, so they're different color spaces. That's a good point. It's also one of the downsides of a lot of inkjet printers is that RGB, red, green, blue. If you want to create black from RGB, red, green, blue, you got to mush them all together. CMYK, cyan, yellow, magenta, and K is black, solves that problem. But with things like the Epson printer, it's got 7 different colors in it. It's got, let me see if I can find it. It's 7 different color cartridges. Right, sorry, 8 color cartridges. One of them is gloss. It auto selects for black. I'm trying to find out what the actual colors are. Of course, it doesn't say on the website. That's just stupid. Stupid. It's tough to see, but I mean, there's an orange, and there's a yellow, and there's a blue, and there's a 2 different kinds of black, and a gloss, and a red, and all kinds of stuff. So its color fidelity is going to be much better than a CYMK printer, or even an RGB printer. Sherry says it's probably a green, yeah. Brian says, so what are your thoughts on Pantone colors? I don't know enough about, I don't know if you're asking me, Brian, or someone else in the RC chat room. I don't know enough about Pantone to even get into that discussion. I'm not that much of a print. I do know that printing is a black art, because one of the problems I had printing was, and I have to talk to Epson about this, whether it's the print driver, whether it's the software, whether it's the OS, I don't know. Several of my prints, when I printed them off, it cropped them in ways I didn't like to fit the page, or not cropped, but zoomed in ways I didn't like in order to fit on the page. And there were other times when the image didn't come out. It had a white line on one side of it, which was annoying too. So I've got to figure out, I've got a phone call into the Epson tech support to find out what that issue is. But the ones that did come out, spectacular. I mean, I love these. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. We're also going to be talking about what I'm calling the iBand, which I think will be what people are calling the iWatch. I don't think Apple's going to come up with an iWatch and coming up with an iBand. And we'll talk a bit more about this photography stuff in our Starting Point Photography segment about cooperative art. We'll talk about that. Again, I want to say thanks to MacFun, macfun.com, joby.com, epson.com, oloclip.com, lowpro.com, backblaze.com, and pixelmator.com. And we got prizes from some of those companies coming up a little bit later on in the show. But up next, we're going to give a phone call into our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. We'll talk to Jim about whatever comes up, whatever we feel that would be fun to talk to Jim about. All that and much more coming up. This is your Mac Life. Welcome back to Your Mac Life. I'm Shawn King. On our phone, we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
You okay, man?
I can't find my phone.
What do you mean you can't find? How am I talking to you if you can't find your phone?
Well, I put my Bluetooth headset in
You're just
because I knew you were calling.
Uh-huh.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I got my phone now.
You okay now, buddy?
Yeah.
All right.
I found my phone.
Isn't that a disconcerting feeling nowadays? That it's just. I mean, I'm an idiot. I've lost my phone several times, but it's a whole panic thing because our phones are so important to us now. It's not just a communication device anymore. It's where you're getting email and when you're getting text messages and you're getting information. And if I can't find that device anymore, I get into a cold sweat.
It's true. It's true.
Have you ever completely lost your phone? I mean, just like unrecoverably lost it, or have you just sort of misplaced it?
Once.
Yeah. Isn't that just the worst feeling?
Yeah.
And I had it happen.
Yeah.
I had it happen when I was back home in Halifax a couple of weeks ago. I left like an idiot. I left my phone in a cab, and I wasn't expecting to ever get it back. And just going into my mind, thinking, "Oh God, what have I lost? What information, what data have I lost? What has someone else gotten a hold of?" Kind of thing. It's an awful, awful feeling.
Yeah.
I want to have.
It really is.
I want to have my phone tethered to me in some sort of way. I want those string mitten things that we had as kids, so my phone never leaves me.
We'll sew a big pom-pom on your phone.
Exactly, something, man. I want electric shock. If my phone gets more than 10 feet away from me, there's a device in my pocket that gives me an electric shock to my penis. So I will not ever forget my phone because it's just an awful, awful feeling. Okay, now that we've talked about my penis, let's move on. Did you happen to see Ben Bajarin's Tech Opinions column about the Disney iBand?
I didn't.
It's a really interesting. You should read it. I'll email it to you, or someone email it to Jim. It's a really interesting column because, as I've said before, I don't think Apple's going to come out with an iWatch. I don't think Apple's is developing a watch-type device that lets you tell time and do that kind of stuff, but also you get notifications. But the idea of an iBand, have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, Jim, with the kids?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think they had it when you were there, but the stories about how Disneyland has this, when you buy their package, they have this RFID band. It's like one of those Lance Armstrong Live Strong bracelets or that kind of thing, but it's got the RFID technology or chip inside of it. And it kind of tracks you as you're going around the Disney park. And it allows you to buy things. It allows you to buy things at the restaurant. It allows you to get on rides. It basically allows you to not bring your wallet with you. It's got dual authentication, so there are some places where you have to use a thumbprint to identify yourself along with the iBand. It's also got a PIN number associated with it too, so you also have to sometimes use your PIN number. And in theory, you could do it with triple authentication. You've got the iBand, you've got your thumbprint, and you've got a PIN number. So that would be a very secure kind of device. What are your thoughts on iWatch, iBand, that kind of thing? I mean, I think you and I have talked about it, but not for a while now. Has your thoughts and feelings changed about iWatch or iBand in the last 3 or 4 months?
Well, I think that my thoughts overall about whatever this device is, I haven't really changed that much. I think that it's going to be more than what all of these other companies think that it is.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
And that's going to have them racing. And if you look at the stories that come out that, this device will, measure heart rate and do the types of health things that, we may want it to do, that fits more in with a band than a watch. So I don't know. It's I've always said that I expect an iWatch or whatever it's going to be to do more than just ping me when I get a message.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't. Okay, but you know, I expect a lot more.
The Wall Street Journal's what the hell's her name? Anyway, the Wall Street Journal has an article about the first Android Wear watches. Joanna Stern has an article about that. And one of the things that she talks about is how annoying these devices are, and that they give her too much information, or they give her too much of the wrong kind of information. I think that's what Apple is going to be, I hope anyway, be really good at avoiding. I don't need my watch or my iBand to let me know when I've got an email. I can pull my phone out for that kind of stuff. If you want to, you can set your phone to vibrate. And I was talking to a friend yesterday. They didn't know that you can set up custom vibrations for your phone. So rather than having it just bzzz, you can set up a particular kind of vibration so that you'll know, you're in a meeting and you can turn your volume off or your ringer off, and yet it'll go bzz, 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 to let you know your wife is calling or your husband is calling or something like that, or your boss is calling. She didn't know you could do that. And that's the kind of granularity I want to see in any kind of wearable device. One that will inform me not just that I'm getting an email or getting a phone call, but who that phone call is coming from in that kind of way without me having to read a screen.
Well, some kind of an iBand would be perfect in collecting information quietly in the background as well.
That's an interesting point. That collecting information thing is, I think, going to be really interesting to see which companies do it in which ways. And for lack of a better way to describe it, I trust Apple more than I do Google to collect data in a way that I find acceptable. I think we all assume that Google is going to be collecting everything they possibly can in any way they possibly can, and maybe not using it in ways that I approve of. Where I think Apple will collect that data, hopefully anonymously, but certainly in ways that if Apple asks me directly, and I think they will, is it okay if we collect this data? You'll say, yeah, go ahead. Or no, you can't. I think that's going to be key.
Well, I think that we expect Apple to collect the information and present it to us in a way that's meant to benefit us.
Yes.
And we expect Google to collect information that benefits them.
Good point. Yeah, yeah.
So, that right there, I think says everything. To me, that says everything. It's trust.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. I think that, and the other thing I think that one of the great things that Tim Bajarin talks about in his article is that Apple's not going to do all this stuff at once. They're not going to throw the kitchen sink into this first device. It's going to be a very leveling up kind of thing. This time the device will do this, and then in 6 months now, you'll be able to upload more software, and it'll be able to do a little bit more stuff. I think Apple's going to start off very slowly to gain and build trust. Because rightfully so, I think a lot of us should be suspicious of any device, any company, any government organization that can track us doing things. I saw a story, I think it was about an Android phone that automatically collected data as to where your home was versus your work was, and then they would sell that data, that traffic data, that every day that Jim goes to work, he travels this many miles on these roads, and maybe this means that it's a good place for someone to put an advertisement for Heineken. Not that Jim needs an advertisement for Heineken, but you know what I mean? Without anyone knowing that they're tracking that data. I don't think Apple's ever going to do anything like that. I think any data that Apple grabs is going to be tertiary to how important the data is to you. And I think that's the key. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to trust Apple with this stuff more than anybody else.
Well, and we're used to trusting them, and
sure.
and we're comfortable in trusting them.
Yep.
We're comfortable in Apple collecting that data, and that's very important.
Yeah, yeah. And
and that's one of Google's problems, I think.
And I think one of the things that Apple recognizes and realizes is that they've got one shot at doing this right. That if people find out that Apple's collecting data in the background, they lose their credibility instantly. And I don't think I don't think Tim Cook is willing to do that. I think Tim Cook is willing to go very, very slowly on this and take their time and just do minor data collection. It might be have a heart rate monitor in it, say, and it might be a pedometer kind of thing. I think they'll focus on the fitness kind of stuff first, but it can grow. I mean, if you read Bajarin's column and imagine how what he's talking about there at Disneyland can be expanded to a lot of other areas. And some of those areas are very scary. Some of those areas are things that we're not going to be comfortable with. I mean, I don't know how comfortable you would be because you know Disney does this. Disney tracks their guests throughout the park. When you're wearing the Disney iBand, whatever it's called, you know Disney is tracking you. You know Disney knows that X number of people go to that restaurant at that time of the day. So they will then put on more staff or raise prices. And you know the other reason why they do this is so that you don't know how much money you're spending. That's something I don't think a lot of people realize when they use these things. If you can just walk up to a ride and swipe your iBand across a RFID reader, you don't know how much that ride costs. You don't know that it's a $10 ride versus the other ride, which is $5. You won't know until you get the bill at the end of your trip. You spent 25%, 50% more money than if you were pulling dollar bills out of your pocket every single time you had to buy something.
Yeah, true.
That's kind of scary too. You know, that idea of Disney tracking you, but also you being unable to, because a lot of us don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. Unable to. I mean, for example, I never know how much money's on my Starbucks card. Never have a clue. I don't know if it's $5. I don't know if it's 30 cents. I don't know if it's $20. And so I'll just go into a Starbucks and buy stuff willy-nilly until the barista goes, "Oh, we need more money from you." "Oh, really? Okay, cool." I don't know where that $20 went. You do not track, you do not pay attention to a lot of that stuff when you have these cards, when you have these ID devices.
Absolutely true.
So how Apple is going to do this, if they do this, when they do this, and I think they will, but I think it's going to be an iBand thing as opposed to any kind of watch device. We were talking.
Well,
go ahead.
Whatever it is, it has to fix and solve things.
True, and so you have to ask yourself, would what we're talking about here fix and solve anything? Yeah, the fitness stuff, the heart rate monitor, you can see how that's useful for some people. Obviously, it's not useful for me or you because I've used pedometers and they basically tell me to get off my fat ass. You know, a pedometer is completely useless to me because I never move. You know, I go from here to the bathroom to the coffee machine. That's it. You've done 5 steps today. Oh, cool. You know, that's 3 more than yesterday.
You doubled mine,
exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly. But, you know, there are a class of people who that's going to be of value to, but I don't think Apple is going to build a device that's just for the fitness enthusiast. It might be an ancillary benefit. It might be something that's nice to have, but I don't think we're going to see the version of, say, a Nike Fitband from Apple that does only one thing. I think your iBand will do all of these things, and you just turn those features on and off using your iPhone or using other devices.
I think the more you start to put out products that fit in a niche or are more specific, you know, it's not going to appeal to everyone.
Yes.
But if you can start to tie some of that stuff in, then, you know, you open up the market again.
I posted this up on the Loop. Target Field introduces self-serve beer machines for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Would Monique allow you to put a self-serve beer machine in your basement, Jim?
That's a good question.
I think this is I might
have to ask her about that.
I think the idea of this big picture is kind of cool. Because what you do is another example of using cards. You go to a vendor, you put X number of dollars on the card, and then you go to the self-serve beer machine. You don't pay money directly to the beer machine kind of thing. So you can load up a card with X number of dollars, and the thing is, it only allows you to drink a certain amount over a certain period of time. So,
what?
Yeah, you didn't read this? This is.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
Exactly. You're only allowed 48 ounces every 15 minutes. Now, 48 ounces of beer in 15 minutes, you're doing good, okay? That's what, 4 pints every 15 minutes? That's not bad.
Well, it's breakfast.
But I kind of like the idea because I don't know why. It's maybe because I'm Canadian. I think the idea of a self-serve beer machine is kind of cool. I actually wrote this in the story. I heard the publisher of The Loop is starting a Kickstarter to get one of these set up full of Heineken in his house.
Nice.
Over the weekend, this happened, I think back in June, but over the weekend, Apple posted up on the Apple YouTube site, Apple's Pride video. They say on June 29th, thousands of Apple employees and their families marched in the San Francisco Pride Parade. Came from around the world, from cities as far as Munich, Paris, and Hong Kong, to celebrate Apple's unwavering commitment to equality and diversity, because we believe that inclusion inspires innovation. That comes directly from Tim Cook, doesn't it?
Well, I think that's been a part of Apple for a long, long time.
Maybe, but I think they're more obvious in Tim Cook's reign over with regards to how they're being more overt about this kind of stuff. Yes, Apple has always been a company that has welcomed diversity in many, many different forms. But this, only during Tim Cook's reign have you seen them being this overt about it, getting involved in political campaigns, getting involved in parades and things like this. Apple didn't do this with Steve Jobs.
No, I mean, but Tim isn't Steve. This is this is Tim's thing, and if this is part of what he wants to do is to bring this more to the forefront, then good for him.
We've talked about this before, and we definitely will talk about it again. Do you think this hurts the company?
Overall, no.
Because there's going to be a class, a group of people who disagree with Apple's stance on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you make a stand, you're going to piss off 20% of the population. Apple's doing this knowing that. I mean, they're smart people. They know that there are people who don't agree with a corporation doing these kinds of things. But do you think it's still worth it overall?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I think, we're maybe I'm just too blind, but I would like to think that we're in a society that will allow people to be themselves, whatever that is. And if you're around Apple sometime and look at the people, you have people dressed up really nice. You have people in jeans and t-shirt. You have, guys that are wearing, girls' shoes or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I mean, just they're smart and they work hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about anything else.
If
this is the guy that's coding the stuff that makes my iPhone work, keep going.
Yep, that's right. From my point of view, yes, you're always going to have Neanderthals that are going to disagree with this. But from the way I think about it, coming from a family of minorities, half black, my mom's side of the family is all black. We understand discrimination. I was taught about discrimination. My grandfather, even though we lived in Canada, my grandfather told me stories of discrimination, of him traveling down south and seeing the incredible Jim Crow laws in Atlanta in the 40s and 50s. So for me, basing an opinion about somebody based on anything other than their personality is offensive to me. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care the color of your skin. I've always said, the only time I care about who you sleep with is when I want to sleep with you. That's the only time it becomes an issue. Otherwise, it doesn't matter to me. If I don't want to sleep with you, I don't care who you sleep with.
When it comes right down to it, I don't like you just because of you.
Exactly, and I have no problem with that. But if you don't like someone because of the color of their skin, you're an asshole. If you don't like someone because you don't like them, their personality, I'm okay with that. I got no problem with that. Oh yeah, I've got no problem with that. But yeah, if you don't like something based on some sort of criteria like that, then yeah, and I don't care. I like that Apple is stepping up and doing this. I wish we'd see this from more companies. I want to see the Googles in the Pride Parade, and the HPs, and everyone else who's any kind of influence getting involved. I want to see a day where maybe it happens in 10 years, unlikely. Maybe it happens in 50 years, where we don't have Pride Parades anymore because we don't need them anymore.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the. This is kind of up your alley. I posted a story. Why classic rock isn't what it used to be. Do you remember the first day you were listening to the radio and your favorite music from high school or where it was came on a classic rock station? Were you pissed off when that happened?
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, really.
I still remember the day. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, driving down I-24 in Nashville, Tennessee, and I just recently moved there, so I'm pushing buttons on the radio trying to find music I want to listen to that ain't country, and I heard the classic rock. It's like, okay, I like classic rock, so I pushed the button, and the announcer said, and next up on classic rock FM whatever, The Clash. I was like, no.
Yeah.
The Clash is not classic rock. I'm not that old yet.
Well, I don't know that we have any classic rock anymore. I mean, at what point is the classic rock station going to just die out?
I was going to ask you, yeah, what would you consider to be classic rock now besides what we think of, the Led Zeppelins and the Beatles and those kinds of guys? I mean, now we're moving into the decades of the 80s. I mean, is U2 classic rock? Is Green Day classic rock?
I guess it is.
If you look at classic rock as being a time-based thing, then yeah, maybe they are. I think of classic rock as being classic songs, not time.
I mean, for me, classic rock is the 70s to me.
Yeah, but see,
the 80s is hair metal.
Yeah.
The 90s is alternative. The 2000s is just completely screwed.
But see, I don't think of classic rock as being time-based, as being decade-based. To me, classic rock means classic music, the songs that are timeless. And for me, I would, if that's my definition, then there's the Clash, London Calling. Oh my God, that's a classic rock song. The Beatles, there's some classic Beatles song, classic Led Zeppelin songs. I don't know that I would say there's any Green Day songs that are classics. I'm not that big of a fan of the band, so maybe someone else would disagree with me. But that to me is what classic rock means. But I guess it's more time-based. You're saying stuff from the 70s is classic rock to you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Folks, that article is up on The Loop at loopinsight.com. I want to get your clarification on this, Jim. I posted a story I didn't realize was going to get this much attention on loopinsight.com. Sponsored content is the holy grail of digital publishing, but does it work? Got a lot of folks trying to tweak me on this because there are sponsored posts on The Loop, but that's not sponsored content, is it?
No.
Explain the difference between what you think for The Loop is the difference between sponsored content and sponsored posts.
Well, sponsored posts are what we do. A sponsor buys a spot and we tell the readers about that in a paragraph.
Yes.
So that's a sponsor, just to let the readers know who's helping to pay for the site.
Now,
sponsored content is completely different because it's a story that looks like content on the site,
mm-hmm.
but it's written by the company.
The what people are tweaking me on loopinsight.com, the front page, the Max Snap Bundle, 4 powerful photo apps, only $25, sponsor. That's what the headline says. That is quite plainly and simply, that's an advertisement, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what a sponsored. That's what sponsored means in the headline. It means that this is a paid advertisement by the company that I don't know how it works, but I'm going to assume that the company sends you a marketing blurb that you would post up on The Loop, right?
Well.
Or you write it.
No, they write it.
Okay, all right. I mean, and it doesn't matter who writes it. It's obvious that it's an advertisement. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with advertising at all. The Loop has it. I wish I could advertise. I wish I could make money from advertisement. But a sponsored content, folks, is something completely different. It's what is often called advertorial. That either the company itself, as you said, writes the post for you, and then you put it up on someone's website, or you write the story and the sponsoring company gets approval of the story. It's always going to be a fluff piece being nice to the company in question. There's never any doubt about that. It's never going to be a negative review of something. And I don't know if they still do it, because I rarely read these things anymore, but Macworld magazine, macworld.com, was notorious for doing these, but they would put sponsored content at the bottom of the post. So you'd read the whole post, and then you get to the bottom and it said, this content sponsored by this company. And that to me was offensive. And I actually chewed Jason Snell out on Twitter for them doing this. And they changed so that those sponsored posts are now, the disclaimer is now at the top of those posts and no longer at the bottom. What do you think of sponsored content in general, Jim?
I don't like sponsored content.
Why not?
Because I think the editorial part of the site should be editorial.
Mm-hmm.
But, companies are in a bad way of sorts where, they need to bring in revenue.
Yeah.
So, you got to weigh that against it, and you weigh your reader's time and eyeballs against the cash that you're going to get.
Is it an ethical issue? Is it a economic issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's both. If you can get past that, this is what you're going to do, well, then away you go.
I think from a reader point of view, for me personally, I said this on the Loop story, if I see sponsored posts, sponsored content, not an advertisement, but a sponsored content, I don't read the article because I don't trust the article. I don't trust, because I often read news sites, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for news and information. I don't trust that information because that information comes from the company that they're talking about. I got into a little bit of a pissing match with Walt Mossberg on Monday because they posted a story about this company that is making 3D printed earbuds. And the CEO of the company said, getting custom-made earbuds costs thousands and thousands of dollars and takes weeks and weeks. We can do it cheaper, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, that's bullshit. That's not true.
Yeah.
The folks at Etymotic.com, you go to Etymotic.com, they'll send you to an audiologist and charge you less than $100 to get custom ear molds done. And so I called out Walt Mossberg on this, and they were like, well, we made it clear we hadn't tried the product. I said, that's not the point. The point is you were using marketing material from the company without any fact-checking. That's almost a sponsored post right there. That's really, really close to the marketing company, I think the company was called Normal, sponsoring this news story. If nothing else, it was nothing more than Recode cutting and pasting a press release.
And what did he say?
He danced around that issue. He danced around the fact that the thing that I was most upset about was them allowing the marketing guy without any questioning, or the CEO of the company, without questioning the thousands and thousands of dollars to get custom earbuds thing. That's what my concern was. It wasn't the rest of the story. The rest of the story was obviously PR from the company, but at least fact check the PR. And how could the writer of the story write that earbuds cost thousands and thousands of dollars to get custom molded earbuds? They don't. I thought everyone would know that.
Well, and in fact, you can go to NAM if you're in that area.
Yep.
And get them done for free.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. When I was at CES one year, the Etymotic folks were doing them for free for folks who were buying Etymotic headphones right there. So yeah, and these are custom molded. Now maybe they were talking about those kinds you see. What are those ones that you'll see musicians wear in concerts? You see the brown things in their ears. Are those monitors,
Those
Jim?
are, well, ear monitors is a trademarked brand
Okay.
of Future Sonic.
Okay.
So yes, those are ear monitors, but those are custom. Even the name is theirs.
And how would, if at all, how is an ear monitor different from a set of earplugs, earphones?
Well, a lot of it is the technology in the driver that's in the hardware. So if you go to an audiologist and get something made, then when you get your in-ears, it comes with a mold that fits your particular ear, and then the headphones themselves have a post on them, and the post sticks inside the mold.
Yes. Yep.
That's where you get your sound.
I've got those right here. Folks who are watching the video can see that there's a hole in the mode where as Jim said, the post would go. But a Future Sonic ear monitor it's obviously much more expensive. But is it? I guess I don't understand what an artist is using those things for. Are they listening to the music?
Oh yeah. So when an artist is up on stage,
Yeah.
if you look at a typical stage, you'll see wedges in front of each microphone.
Yeah.
And the wedges are playing the music. Whatever, let's say a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar player is standing there, and he's standing in front of the wedges, and it's playing back the music to him so that he can hear it. Because typically, if you look at a stage, the speakers are in front of the band.
Yeah.
So the band can actually hear themselves play.
Yeah.
So without wedges, it's very difficult for a band to hear what they're playing and to make sure that they're in time with everybody. So, the guitar player may say, I want some guitar from the other side of the stage. The other guitar player, I want some bass and I want some vocal.
Yeah.
And the singer may say, I want some of both guitars and a bass. But what the ear monitors did, what Marty Garcia did, he's the owner of Future Sonic, he came up with ear monitors to allow musicians to put all of that music in their ears.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need wedges anymore.
Okay.
So it's a lot more efficient, and you get a lot clearer sound and
mm-hmm.
better sound. So I know whenever I get up on stage, one of the hardest things for me is to hear the band.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if you put in ear monitors, you can go anywhere and hear the band.
Cool. Okay.
And it's customized. The sound coming out of the ear monitors are customized for you. So when I went to Ireland and played on stage, I had them set up the monitors for me.
Yeah.
And, the band would play, and I'd ask for more vocal.
Yeah.
And, they'd pump up the vocal only in my wedges.
Cool.
So, then I'm good for the whole set.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'd often seen artists with those things in their ears, and I was always curious as to how they were different from regular earphones that we were using to listen to our music.
Yep.
You posted a story, this is the last story, and we'll let you go. Confessions of an Uber driver. Have you ever used Uber, Jim?
I love Uber.
Yeah. I have this wonderful mental image of you using Uber on your phone and calling an Uber driver, and some guy in a Corolla pulling up next to you and just going, "No, you're not getting in my cab." Have you ever had anyone turn you down? Because you look homeless, dude.
No, never. And it's funny, because people. We went to a concert during WC, my son and I, and after the concert was over, everybody piled outside, and everybody was trying to flag down a cab.
Sure, yeah.
I just pushed Uber and said, come pick me up.
Yeah.
2 minutes later, this girl drove up. She had a Camry and very nice car, very clean. She was very friendly. And while everybody's standing out on the street trying to get a car, she drove right to where I was standing on the sidewalk, because it tracks you by GPS. And I hopped in. She knew who I was because it has my picture in the profile. So she knew who to look for. And we were gone. There was no problem at all.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So you've got a photo, obviously, so the driver can recognize the person. There's a photo in the Uber app that gets sent to the driver.
Right.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I have a photo of them and the make and model of their car and license plate number of the car.
It's an interesting model that's not taking off. Has taken off certainly in San Francisco. In other places, it's banned here in Vancouver. They're not allowed even to set up Uber. Is it? I don't think Halifax is a big enough city with enough traffic to be worried about it. Is there Uber in Halifax?
No, I don't think that
there.
I
don't think there is either. But it is great for those heavily populated areas when you can't find a cab or don't know where to get a cab or anything else like that. From what I've read, it's very convenient. It has its problems. It's going to have its growing pains. But for everyone I've heard use it, says it's a really neat idea and really a great way to do things.
Well, I haven't had any real problems with Uber. I mean, you order it, they tell you how long it's going to be. It's pretty accurate, and they come and they drive you.
And it's not hugely more expensive than a taxi cab, is it?
No.
I mean, it can be, depending on surge pricing and things like that, depending on time of day and things like that. But for the most part, if you're sharing a cab ride with two or three other people, it's or the Uber ride with two or three other people, it's fairly inexpensive.
And I ran into surge pricing only once.
Yeah.
And it was like surge pricing, for those that don't know, is when the Uber cars are like demand is outdoing supply.
Yeah.
So if you call, you could pay 2 times the regular price or 3 times the regular price of an Uber car in order to get it.
Yep.
So I went to get an Uber at one point, and it was 2 times the regular price, and I just said, no, I'll just have another beer.
Yep.
Had another beer, and 15 minutes later, surge pricing was gone. That's and right. I pinged for an Uber, and there it was.
Yep. It's the law of supply and demand. If there's no more demand, the price goes up. I don't now when they get gouging, when the prices are like 5 and 6 and 7 times in not times of emergency, but in times of even heavier traffic. I know they've gotten in trouble in New York City about this, and they promised not to do the price gouging. But adding more bucks on it because of supply and demand, I don't see much of a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Folks, been talking to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. Did you and Dan Benjamin do a Amplified today?
We did not.
You did not? Are you going to do it tomorrow?
I don't know.
All right. Well, folks, check Jim's Twitter feed or theloopinsight.com for listings. Also go to the website, the Apple Store, and just subscribe to Amplified, and then it pops up on your podcast feed automatically. Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. Thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Talk to you next week. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
That was Jim. That was my Skype. Sorry about that. So hopefully some of you have had a chance to read the Tim Bajarin article, Understanding Apple's Wearable Strategy. I want to talk a little bit more about it. Do you have concerns about this? If you went to Disneyland, and big picture, it's really kind of cool. What happens is you sign up for this particular package at Disneyland. They send you wristbands for everyone in the family. You create a PIN number for the individual wristbands. And then, I guess at the hotel, you also do a thumbprint authentication thing. Then basically, you leave your wallet at home. You leave your wallet in the hotel room. When you're in the park, everywhere you go, there's going to be an RFID reader of some kind. So you want to line up for Splash Mountain, you can swipe your arm, and it will tell you when to line up. You go to one of the restaurants, you swipe your arm and maybe use a PIN number or your thumbprint, and you pay for your meal at the restaurant. when you want to buy souvenirs at the shop. You just swipe your arm, again, PIN number, thumbprint. The downside, as we said, is you're probably not going to know how much you're spending. Now, Tim didn't mention whether or not things like the restaurant have prices on them. That would be something I would like to know, because that would encourage you to spend even more money. And I haven't talked to him, but I want to talk to him about this. The idea of, does he think his family spent more money because this was so easy? You know, did you go on rides that you might not have gone on? Did you have meals you might not have had, or more food that you might have not had, or bought more souvenirs? Because he went there with his son, Ben Bajarin, and his two grandkids, two granddaughters, who I think, I'm going to guess, are like 7 and 9 or 8 and 10, which is a prime target for Disney souvenirs. How do you think about this? Email onair at yourmaclifeshow.com. Let me know what you guys think of this sort of thing. From the point of view of, this is the future. There's no doubt that, let me say 10 years from now, this will be commonplace. The idea that we will not carry around a wallet at all. We will have on our wrists a bracelet like a Livestrong device. See, that's the other thing too, is I can wear a watch and put you've seen people do this. They'll wear a watch and they'll have one of these bracelets on it for any number of causes, whether it be Livestrong or whatever it might be. I've seen people with 4 and 5 of these things on their arms. They're kind of a fashion statement. They're kind of a statement of, I support this cause, those kinds of things. Whereas a watch is a personal thing. I'm not going to pick up just any watch and wear it. I need a particular watch that says a particular thing about me. I have had my Tissot watch. I think it's the one thing I've owned the longest in my entire life. My Tissot watch for 12 years now, that I bought in Atlanta, Georgia. I love that watch. I think that watch says something about me. So if Apple came out with a watch and that watch didn't speak to me in a fashion sense, I wouldn't wear it. Whereas an iBand, that's just a yellow band or a blue band, or whatever it might be, yeah, you'd wear that. So in 10 years' time, our driver's license, our medical information, our credit card data, our debit cards, our store credit cards, our Starbucks card will all be on that watch, on that iBand on your wrist. Is that a good thing? Does that trouble you? Because it's certainly going to make it a lot easier for companies to track us, for organizations to track us, perhaps for governments to track us. Do you have a problem with that? I have my Safeway card. That's my Safeway card. But anyway, here's a Safeway kind of card. Where's my Safeway card? I got to find my Safeway card. Credit card, driver's license. Uh-oh. Wait, where's my Safeway card? Now I'm going to panic. Crap. Lost my Safeway card. But anyway, so you get these cards. And when I fill out the form to get the card, I don't give them my real information. I don't give them my address. I don't give them my phone number. I don't give them my email address. I don't give them anything. I just want your damn card. Because I'm concerned about that kind of tracking. A lot of the junk mail we get in our mailboxes is because of these kinds of customer appreciation cards. Because that's just a mailing list. All Safeway is doing, or all Save on Foods is doing, or all Publix is doing is gathering data on you through that card and then selling that data to advertisers or to marketers. I mean, how many times have you used that card? It happened in the States, Kroger. I'd go to Kroger, I'd buy ice cream, a particular brand of ice cream. In the mail a few days later, I'd get a coupon for a different brand of ice cream, or that ice cream cheaper, because they're tracking you. They know these things. I don't like that. I don't want you to do that. Mosquito says, if Apple makes a watch, I want it to look like as though Dieter Rams designed it. Brian Monroe, Mo, if when Apple makes a watch, it will be designed by Sir Johnny Ives. MacMan, I have a fairly large problem with that kind of tracking. I never returned the form for my Safeway card, he says. I told them I didn't have time to fill it out. They said, just bring it back next time in. I ended up in the recycling bin. Yeah. What happens when in the future we won't have a choice? That stores, one of the pain points of all this is going to be stores aren't going to have the reader for the iBand. So it's going to need some time. That's why I say 10 years we'll all be doing this. But what happens when stores only take this? Like nowadays, a lot of stores don't take American Express. Maybe at some point in the future, stores won't take credit cards, won't take debit cards. They'll only take your wristband. You're going to be tracked. Which is why one of the points that Tim Bajarin makes in the Understanding Apple's Wearable Strategy is that, and as Jim said during the show, we trust Apple more than we do Google. Now, I'm not saying we trust Apple implicitly. I'm not saying I'm going to give everything, all my data to Apple, and I'll be happy doing that. But at the least, I feel better about Apple, giving my data to Apple, knowing they're probably not going to be a jerk about it than I do about Google. What about you guys? You think the same way? In theory, we're all Mac fans. In theory, we're all Apple fans. How do you feel about giving Apple access to a lot more data than they have now? Would you be concerned about Apple tracking you from home to work using geolocation, or just using the M7 chip on your iPhone? In theory, they don't, but in theory, it could be done now. In other words, over a period of time, it's going to be really easy to see that every day at 9 o'clock, you're in this location. And every day at midnight, you're in this location. Well, it means obviously that's work and that's home. And it's a trivial piece of code to know that you leave the house at you leave your house at 8 o'clock, get to work at 8:37, and you took these roads. Well, in aggregate, maybe that data becomes important to an advertiser who, as I said with Jim, wants to put advertising somewhere. Where is a billboard most effective? Well, it's in the place with a lot of high traffic. But if I can collate that data of traffic with shopping. So, for example, I want to sell Heineken, Jim's favorite beer, which, by the way, Brian Monroe, who doesn't drink beer, Heineken's awful. It doesn't matter what Jim says, it's vile. So I want to sell Heineken to a group of people who have bought Heineken in the past. Maybe haven't bought it in the last 6 months. I can track that using some of this data. And I know that this is a high traffic corridor. So I know those people traveling this high traffic corridor haven't bought Heineken in the last 6 months. I'll put up a Heineken ad. This is not hard to do. Once you get enough data, not on individuals. Brian says, Shawn, you should have asked Jim about the beer when he was on. Why? I know Heineken's crap. I don't need to ask Jim about it. What was that Isaac Asimov? Oh, Foundation series. Isaac Asimov back in the 50s wrote a series of books, a trilogy, it turned out to be a quadrilogy, called the Foundation series. And one of the premises of the Foundation series was that you cannot predict the actions of individuals, but you can predict the actions of groups. The larger the group, the easier it is to predict their action. So advertisers are going to want to collect as much data as they can, and having an iBand is going to be very easy for them to do that. What are your thoughts on this? Read the article, Understanding Apple's Wearable Strategy. I really believe that's where Apple's going. The concern we all should have is how this gets implemented. And like we said with Jim, Apple's going to do it slowly. They announced the health kit thing on purpose because that's a great idea. The idea of you go to the hospital and they put that little wristband on you. Well, what if they just slipped an iBand on you? And your doctor had an iBand reader on his iPad. And he would walk into your room and using iBeacon. Remember, all this stuff is all tied in. This is all tied in. Doctor walks in your room, the iBeacon reads your iBand health wristwatch or wristband pops up on the doctor's iPad, and there's your medical history. All the comments any doctor has made about it, it's all in there. They know you're having surgery next Tuesday. They know what kind of surgery it's going to be. They can confirm data with you. They can check it all off, and it's all collated and put onto your iBand up in the cloud. That's where the health stuff is going. Apple's going to do the idea of a pedometer on your wrist, and it may be a heart rate monitor and that kind of stuff. That's why they're hiring the Nike guys. That stuff's easy to do. But Apple's thinking bigger and thinking further down the line. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they pull this off versus how other companies pull it off. And how, when other companies screw up, and they will, how that affects Apple and our trust in Apple and our ability to believe that Apple will do, from their opinion, what's right for the customer. It's coming. It's coming. We got to get ready for it. You got to think about this stuff. You got to think about the data you're going to give up and how much of it you're willing to give up and at what cost. You know, for example, it's easy to imagine an iBand. You walk into a mall, and because of the iBeacon finds your iBand, that the first, those mall maps, you walk up to a mall map, and it pops up with an advertisement for you because of your iBand. And it knows the last time you were in this mall 2 weeks ago, you walked into Nordstrom's, but didn't buy anything. So maybe now that ad pops up and says, hey, Shawn, if you go to Nordstrom's right now, we'll give you $10 off those sneakers you were looking at. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that creepy? It's going to happen. Get ready for it. This is the future. Whether it's dystopian or not is going to be the big question. And I think it's been the most interesting thing that's going to happen in technology coming up in the next 5 years. So get ready for it, kids. Speaking of getting ready for things, want to just do our starting point photography segment. Thanks to the nice folks at MacFun at macfun.com, makers of fantastic software like Snap Heal. And I'm really getting into Intensity Pro, which is a great app. Cheap. It's like $25. The nice folks at Joby, makers of the GorillaPod tripods for your iPhone, your iPad, and no, it's not your iPad, your iPhone, your point and shoot, and your DSLR. Epson, makers of the amazing R2000 color printer. Holoclip, makers of the iPhone lenses for your iPhone and your iPad. Lowepro, makers of my favorite camera bags. Backblaze, makers of online backup software. And Pixelmator, pixelmator.com, makers of great image editing software. All those folks are sponsors of Starting Point Photography segment. I was talking earlier, backing up a little bit. Brian Monroe says that's not going to happen with Apple products. It will happen with Android stuff, though. You have more faith in Apple than I do. I don't have complete blind faith that Apple's going to do the right thing. But I do think that they will do better at this than Google. MacMan, I work in retail, and as someone who's certified by the state as a pharmacy support person, HIPAA is something I have to keep a close eye on. That's HIPAA. For those folks who don't know, in the States, you're not allowed to give out any kind of personal medical data on anybody. ArcSign says, I always expect Apple to have a sign out, opt out of tracking advertising. It's the right thing to do. ArcSign, I agree with you 100%. Apple will definitely do that. I mean, Apple's already doing it on your iPhone. You can opt out of certain kinds of advertising on the iPhone. They'll definitely allow you to opt out of this stuff. So we've been talking before about these images on the wall behind me. For those folks who just joined us, are all from the Epson R2000 printer. The very first image I printed out was of my friend Mike Rose. For you folks who are TUAW fans, you'll recognize this young man. This is Mike Rose of TUAW. This was the first image I printed out, and it blew my mind how good this was coming out of the R2000. Spectacular color on this. And the Epson paper, this is photo paper. I think this is 11 by 17. This is frameable. Actually, this copy I'm sending to Mike tomorrow. The images behind me, my strawberry picture, this is my favorite image I've ever taken of the 19,000 photos I posted on Flickr and other places. This is my favorite image. It came out amazing. I'm having that framed. These two images down here were on a walk I did with my friend Leslie in the Fraser Valley, or sorry, Fraser River. Just took a couple pictures and then just using Snapseed, using Intensify Pro, using Lightroom, just edited and popped and cropped them all to hell and gone and printed them off. And the R2000 did amazing work. Again, it's not a cheap printer. It's upwards of $600. It's a pro printer. This is a printer. This is not the printer you're going to use for, everyday stuff. This is a professional quality printer. So the neat thing was, thanks, Brian. Brian says, so you wanted me to remind you about the fact that most photos will not be printed. And it's true. Most photos don't need to be printed. I saw a infographic on some website that estimated up until 2012, there had been 1 trillion photos taken from the time photography started in the 1800s to 2012. It's estimated that there are 1 trillion photos every single year now. And that in 5 years, there'll be upwards of maybe 1 trillion photos taken a day. The vast majority of those photos are crap. There's no way around it. The vast majority of the photos that I take, that you take, that Rick Salmon takes, that Ansel Adam takes, are crap photos. Okay? So you have to accept that. We talked about this before. Don't get discouraged by the fact that you take photos and they're not very good. Most photos aren't very good. And therefore, most photos don't need to be printed. Most photos are just fine as snapshots, as things that sit on your iPhone or go to your Facebook page or get posted to Instagram. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Those are what we call snapshots. Just real quick images of something that you'll email off to grandma or send to your friends. Those are fine. Some images need to be printed, in my opinion. Strawberry needs to be printed. This image does not look as good to me. Obviously, I'm very biased about this image. Does not look as good on a computer screen, on Flickr, on my iPhone, as it does on this wall in my hand. I love this image. Same with the image of Mike and I. I've seen this image 1,000 times on my iPhone. But when I printed it off, I think I said during the pre-show, everything about that day, this is Mike and I at going to a Yankees game in New York City. Everything about from the beginning of the day when I first called Mike and said, hey, Mike, come to a game with me. I really need a mental health break. And Mike, taking the day off of work, he was already at work, and he bailed out of work. I rode the motorcycle down to New York. I remember that motorcycle ride. I remember taking the back roads to get into New York City. I remember the beer, the awful beer we had, and we got better beer. I remember walking around Yankee Stadium with Mike. I remember all of it. And that is evoked by the hard copy of this image. It wasn't evoked with the iPhone version. So I think printing things off is important. Again, not for everything. MacMan says, what size is it, 11 by 14? I think this is 11 by 17, MacMan. I don't have a ruler here with me, so I'm not sure, but I don't think I have 11 by 14 paper. This is obviously bigger than 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to assume it's 11 by 17. This one up here is 13 by 19. So, and that's full bleed 13 by 19 on this image. Just beautiful from the R2000. And the other thing it was too, that's right, it came out without me messing with the printer. There's no color matching. There's no color syncing. There's no messing with settings. This was all set in automatic. I told the printer, I'm putting this kind of paper. I told it it's this size. And I told it I want you to do it full bleed. Edge to edge. I don't want any white boundage around it. And that's what came out. First time. Blown away. Amazing. Mosquito, configuring print dialog settings. Yeah, it had to configure, I had to tell what paper I was using, had to tell what size the paper was, and had to tell it that I was going to be doing, I wanted edge to edge, I wanted full bleed or no bleed or whatever the hell you guys call it. So my friend Leslie is going off to New York City. She's doing a apartment swap. It's not an Airbnb. There's a couple from New York City coming to Vancouver, and they're staying in her apartment, her house. And she's going to New York City to stay in their apartment in, I don't know if it's Brooklyn or somewhere. I think it's kind of neat. It's an apartment swap. So she said to me, when she saw some of the pictures I've been taking, she said, and when I told her about the R2000 printer and what it could print, she said, could you print those off and I can put them on my wall? I said, sure, yeah, that's not a problem. She said, because the guy who's coming to stay in my apartment in August owns a photography art gallery in New York City. And she said, I thought it'd be kind of cool if, she has these bare walls in her home, that you could post your pictures on my walls, and if you like them, maybe I could hook you two up. I'm like, I'm not that comfortable with that. I don't want to print these off with the idea of some art gallery guy saying, oh, that's mon Dieu, that's fantastic. That's not part of it. But if she likes the photos and she wants them printed off, I have no problem doing that whatsoever. Not a problem at all. It's a friend who wants one of these pictures. She likes it. She saw it on Flickr or she saw it on Twitter or whatever it might be. Sure, if you want that image, you want me to print that off for you, I have no problem doing that. So she came over on either Sunday or Monday to help me test the printer and to look at the images that she wanted to get. And there's this really interesting conversation we had where I pull up an image on screen and I said, what do you think of it? She said, oh, I like it. I said, do you want it cropped differently? She said, no. I said, do you want, I think it was this one. I said, do you want it more blue, less blue? She said, why are you asking me that? Well, this is going to hang on your wall. This is going into your home. I want it to be the picture that you want it to be. She said, but don't you want to print off what you want the image to be? And it got us both thinking. We had a really neat conversation. We didn't have enough wine because it would have been a really neat conversation. It's the idea of, and maybe artists have already done this, this is probably not original to me, of cooperative art. So much art that we see is done by an artist and put somewhere. And that's it. Done. Whether you like it or not is immaterial. Because that art is set in stone. Some of it actually is set in stone. But this kind of stuff doesn't have to be set in stone. You can cooperate with the viewer, with the buyer, with the patron to make it what the patron wants. Is that good or bad? And that's the conversation we had. Is that if she wants this image to be more orange or more yellow or more green, and I do that for her, am I compromising my art? Part of the problem is I don't think of myself as an artist to begin with. I am, because anytime you create imagery or words, things like that, big picture, you are an artist. So I'm not going to use a capital A, but lowercase a, I'm certainly an artist. But I'm not so invested in my art that I wouldn't allow her to make suggestions. One of the images I took, this one, she didn't like the way I originally cropped her. She didn't like the image the way it was originally cropped. And for me, the way I originally cropped it was I cut off this up here. I actually brought it down to about there. And when I showed her the original and went to crop it, she said, oh no, I like that part. I like the trees in the background. Okay. I left the trees in there. And then I started messing around with it in Lightroom and Intensify and all those other kind of apps that I use. And she was sitting next to me saying, oh, how about, I like that. Oh, not so much. Oh, we were cooperating on the art. So in a certain sense, we were both becoming, or both were artists. The question that I asked her, that she asked me was, what would happen if she asked me to do something that I wasn't comfortable with the image? For example, the strawberry photo. The only thing wrong with, this is my favorite image I've ever taken. The only thing wrong with this image is that because it was mid-September in Connecticut, the fall foliage isn't really in full effect in the image. I think the image would be so much better if the trees here were the typical New England fall foliage thing. And when I first took this picture, I said that to my ex-wife. She said, "Well, I'll just fix it in Photoshop." No, I don't want you to fix it in Photoshop. I don't want you to fake it in Photoshop. Now, that being said, these two images down here are faked in Photoshop. Not Photoshop, but are faked. This is not the way the image was taken on either one of these shots. So, in some senses, you do. It's a really interesting, to me anyway, the idea of cooperative art. And maybe, again, because it's not, I don't think of myself as an artist. I think of a guy who takes pictures, who likes taking pictures, who likes showing those pictures off to other people. If they like the picture but want to do something to it, I'm okay with that. I honestly do not have a problem with that. And I've said this before on the show, maybe folks haven't heard it, or if I've taken a picture that you like and you want the original, or you want a copy of it, let me know. I'll send it to you. I have no problem with that. If there's any image I have that you've seen on Flickr or here, if you like it, I'll send it. I'm not going to charge anyone for it. If you like it, I'll send you the JPEG. And you can mess with it. What is it? The Creative Commons kind of thing. You mess with it however you want. You artists out there, I know Mo is a graphic designer, and I consider that to be an artist. What do you think about this kind of stuff, Mo? What do the other artists in the audience think? Mosquito says, Shawn, you mess with your images all the time. You experiment. It doesn't sound like there's only one definitive version of the pictures you shoot. But there is, and you're absolutely right, Mo. Absolutely right. But that's not true of a lot of other art. We've only seen one version of the Mona Lisa. There is only one version of an Andrew Moore sculpture. There is only one version of Moby Dick. Is it only photography that we can do these multiple versions, this manipulation of things? And if that's true, what's real? Is it the original photo that's sitting on my hard drive somewhere? Are these just variations thereof, or are these separate pieces of art by themselves? One of the things I want to do is I want to print off the original and then the series. And I don't know if they look good on a wall, but maybe I'll do it on a website and show folks the progression of things, the different versions of things. Because, I don't think any of these images are the final image. I don't think any image the strawberry one is the only image I've never messed with, except for minor dodging and burning. Most of the else I do, I'll mess with all the hell and gone to make the colors pop and to crop and to do things like that. Mosquito says, I'm not an artist, I'm an illustrator. Dude, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said. If you illustrate things, you're creating art. Just because you make stuff to order, just because it's commercial, just because someone's ordered you to make that pamphlet or that brochure, it's still artistic. There's still art involved there. So don't ever say that you in particular aren't an artist. Brian Monroe says, does it matter what is real? As long as it's not a court case, your photo should be what you want it to be. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But to me, I've been thinking about this since Sunday. I like this idea of cooperative art. I like the idea of, I'm not the smartest guy in a room. I'm not going to say that this is done. This is the way it must be done. And I will brook no disagreement. Hey, if someone looks at one of my pictures and says, I like that, but how about this? Sure, that's fine. That's valid. Interesting. Mosquito says it's craft, not art. I design stuff to hopefully help other people communicate their damn fool messages. The presence of art is a compliment I only occasionally accept. Sherry says, what Mo said is true, though. We're problem solvers first, then artists. Arcsign says, Shawn, there are multiple versions of all art. One commercial edition usually, but even those get updated and reissued. Mosquito, there are multiple versions of Leaves of Grass, by the way. Whitman kept revising it. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Les Posen in Australia So I'm standing up, working and listening to YML. For my health, purchased this device for my desk. It's a very desk, adjustable height sit-stand desk. Interesting. Very desk. VARIDESK. Huh. Interesting. Maurice Chevalier and his lovely wife Shelley are in Scotland. They're at a conference and on vacation. He said, I'm sitting in the keynote lecture listening and Google Glass came up. The objective of the glass is from a technical viewpoint. The glasses would be worn by technicians, say inspection technicians wearing Google type glasses. They would have the data needed to stream to them as the inspection occurs. This will be a huge benefit to the technician and to the company and to the inspection. While Google Glass may get you beat up in bars, they're being looked at seriously in the industry. I agree. I think Google Glass is going to end up being like the Segway, a very narrow vertical niche market. Amazon uses Segways in their gigantic warehouses to get around. The post office has used Segways. Mall cops use Segways. I think it's the same thing going to be happening with Google Glass. You can see how it could be useful for, say, a doctor who is doing a particular surgery. And as he's looking at the patient, the Google Glass information about the surgery or about the patient is in the Google Glass video window. I think for very narrow ranges of things, Google Glass will catch on. I don't think it's, as Maurice says, I don't think it's going to be a popular thing that we're going to see people walking around the streets with. I agree with you on that one. Let's give away some prizes, folks. I want to say thanks very much to, make sure I get his name right. I think it's Gerald. Yeah, Gerald Thomas. Gerald Thomas is Shawn. Dude, thanks very much, but I already own a copy of Pixelmator. As a matter of fact, I bought it when they first came out a few years ago. Please, I really appreciate the prize. I would like it if you could give it to someone who has yet to experience the awesomeness of Pixelmator. I will do that, Gerald, on your behalf. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the prize email folder. And again, what you do is you go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. And at the very top of the page, you will see, let me get this email thing set up right. At the very top of the page, you will see the entry form for the Friends of YML contest entry form. Fill that entry form out. It sends me an email. I drop your name into this virtual hat right here. And if I draw your name, you win a prize. If you're a subscriber to Your Mac Life, don't worry about it. Go to the website. It's already done. It's already done. I've already put your name into the folder virtual hat on your behalf. And you can subscribe to Your Mac Life, and I would encourage you to do so, if only so I can afford printer ink. Because these images use up a lot of printer ink. All right, so just help me buy printer ink. You can subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever amount of money you'd like a month. Go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. On the left-hand side, you can see the PayPal subscription link, and you can subscribe by PayPal or your major credit card. Please do that as soon as you can. And I'm also sending out big thanks to my friend Vito Mori. Vito, I'm doing the Photography Secrets Revealed class up in Prince George, British Columbia in late September. Vito is helping me set that up. So thanks very much to Vito for doing that. You can go to our website at facebook.com/Starting Point Photography for more details, or to the website at startingpointphotography.com. And they will, you'll find out more details. If you're in the Prince George area, if you would like to have me do the class in your area, let me know if you can help out, because there's no marketing budget. If you belong to a mug, maybe you get folks from the mug to come join, or if you belong to a group of people that you think might be interested in this, send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. So again, thanks very much to the folks at MacFun, macfun.com, Joby.com, Epson.com, Oloclip.com, the nice folks at lowpro.com, backblaze.com, and Pixelmator. We'll do a drawing first for Pixelmator. That'll be the first software we drop. So let me just get this ball rolling. Someone in the IRC channel said, Brian Monroe's already said stop. Thank you, Brian. This is going to go to Lawrence Templeton. Lawrence, you've won a copy of Pixelmator. Let me just get this right. Pixelmator. Lawrence Templeton is in, doesn't say. Larry Templeton. Larry, congratulations. You won a copy of Pixelmator from the nice folks at pixelmator.com. Next up, we're going to do a drawing. We got 3 copies of Backblaze, a 3-month free unlimited online backups from Backblaze at backblaze.com. We'll do that drawing next. So I'm going to scroll through here and someone say stop. Brian Monroe says stop again. And I'm going to do this wrapped around this. So the people before and after this one is going to be, this is going to go to Keith Wofford. Keith, congratulations. You've won a copy of Crash Plan. Sorry, I keep saying Crash Plan. I shouldn't. It's Backblaze, two separate companies. Backblaze.com is the website. So Keith Wofford, you've won. Above Keith is Matthew Duffy. Congratulations to Matthew Duffy. You've won a 3-month subscription to Backblaze. Again, backblaze.com. And the other side of Matthew is Alan Nuss. Alan Nuss? Sorry if I say your name wrong, Alan. My apologies for that. You've won a copy of Backblaze. I got all those set up. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Brian, for being in the IRC chat room and anticipating me asking to say stop. I appreciate that. Folks, if you have any questions, comments, if you want to talk about iBand, you want to talk about cooperative art, if you want to talk about photography, send me email. I love getting emails from you guys during the week on air at yourmaclifeshow.com. And I'll do my best to answer them either on the show or in person. So please send me emails to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. That's it. I want to say thanks very much to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com, to our IRC Babe Sly for holding on the fort in the IRC, and to each and every one of you guys for being tuned into the show. As always, I appreciate you guys being involved in the show. Until next week, as always, I've been Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!